Well, it's another Pleasant Valley Wednesday and time for What Did You Buy Wednesday? This is the Resin 3D and Diecast edition. Well, when I do these videos, I try and find something that might be a little different, not just the usual, like my saying, well, I bought a 32 Ford from Revell or I bought a 70 Chevelle, things that we all pretty much have in our stash. They're great models, but I thought in this case, I would do things that you can't just walk into the average hobby store and pick up, especially because many of them are no longer being made. I'm going to start off with this. This is a 1970 Chrysler 300, very nicely done resin. It was done by Ray Parsons. Many of you will remember Ray. He really hasn't been with us for quite some time. It's got to be, 15, 20 years maybe. Ray was a good guy, and he did wonderful work. He did just different subjects that were not kitted by the model companies, and this is one of them. So he did a beautiful job with this, and I really wanted this for a long time. Back in the day, I worked at an Elise, and Ray was a vendor, so I thought, boy, this is great. I'm going to buy one of these, and he would set up, in the morning I was working out front, and we had to make sure that we limited access before the public was allowed to go in. And so we had guys on the door, and we had people, walking line, that sort of thing. So I was always up front on the door, could not get in to talk to Ray to try and get one of these. And it's strictly prohibited by the host club, the Tri-State Model Car Club. There is no buying or selling or even shopping before the public is allowed to get in. So they all have a fair crack at the good stuff. So I couldn't go to Ray because it includes the club. It includes the vendors. I couldn't go to Ray and say, hey, Ray, let me have this. I want to buy it now before 9 o'clock in the morning. Or to say, here's $20 or whatever it was at the time. Put this aside for me. Could not do it. So for years, I would be on the front door when the public would come in. I had to stay there until sometime afterward when another club member would relieve me. And by the time I got to Ray's table, I think he probably bought maybe 3 of these every year. It was sold out. Couldn't get it. One year, finally, we got the public in, and I got one of the guys to relieve me right away. And I went in and I said, Ray, do you have any Chrysler 300s left? He had one left. And it was this, and I got it. So it's been hanging around for a while. I really want to do it. And I was thinking, though, that I might do it a little differently. What I want to do is make this into a convertible with an up top. And you can get almost anything aftermarket these days. I'm surprised that 3D vendors online do not do a lot of different up tops, because it wouldn't be difficult, to cut this off at the sail panel and here along the windshield make a convertible out of it, which would be neat. But it would also be neat, I thought, to have an up top. Now, they don't make one for this model. This is, I think it's from the 58 or 59 Chevy convertible, and it'll go on. It's not exactly the same, but I think it's going to fit, and I think that once it gets on, it's going to look pretty much like the Chrysler up top. So that's my idea for this. This comes with a chassis plate, full interior glass, all that stuff, no engine, but I think it would be really cool. Now, one of the things that I want to get, and I don't know where to source these, would be these wheels. If anybody knows of a source for these wheels, please let me know, because I would love to get a set. Okay, next up is a trio of resin models. Okay, so now this trio of cars represents 3 of the cars that my father owned when I was a kid. This 53 Buick is actually the first car that I remember him driving when I was very young. I was born in 51, so he obviously had a different car when I was born, but I don't remember it. This one I do. It was dark green on the outside, had a white top, metal top, and inside it had kind of gray, fuzzy interior. I called it mouse fur. This resin was mastered by Dean Milano, and I'm sure many of you know Dean. Very, very well-known modeler, very excellent modeler, and also very big in the music scene in Chicago. Dean's a great guy. He worked for Revell for a while, and we were together at the table at the final NNL Nationals, and it's always wonderful to see Dean and talk to him. He mastered this with a fellow named Buckingham. I don't know, frankly, who Buckingham is, but I know that those were the two. It was called Millbuck Resins, and it was around for a while. And I saw this, so I had to get it. So it's been kind of hanging out for a while. You can see it's got the teardrop headlights in the front. It's pretty good. It's got script. It's got the hood ornament on there. It's got an ornament on the back. Really nice. Again, chassis plate, interior, all that. Very straight, a little heavy resin, but that was probably back in the late 80s, early 90s that this was done. But very nicely done. And I think this would make a really cool model. The next car that I remember my dad having was a 55 Buick Roadmaster. Now this one, I don't know who mastered this, but it has, you know, all the stuff, chassis plate, interior, et cetera, and it's pretty well done. Now, I have a set of teardrop headlights from Norm over at Replicas and Miniatures of Maryland I could use on this. It comes in the kit, but it's pretty good. And if you look here, you can see the script, the Buick script on here is in there. It's very nicely done. Also on the back, it says Roadmaster. Now, I remember there being two chrome metal straps that went down the trunk, so I can add them very easily. But altogether, a really neat resin kit, and again, something that you don't really see that often for sale. Finally, a car that I remember really liked back in the day is this 64 Ford Country Squire, and this was mastered. And I apologize, I do not recall the name of the individual who mastered this. I know he's done a lot of resins, a lot of station wagons especially, but this is very nice. It would go with the 64 Galaxy kit, and you know, it's straight and it's really cool. My dad had it in black with almost like a red leather interior, almost a bright red leather, but it was a really cool interior. And at the time, my mom had a 64 T-Bird, also black with that red interior. That was a wonderful car. And of course, there is a 64 T-Bird kit. So that's it. And, you know, at some point, I got to get to these and get them built up and sort of replicate the cars of my youth. Okay, moving on to the modern era, because now we have 3D prints. Look at this. Is this cool or what? This is a 68 Grand Prix, and this comes from Andy Lesiak. I got this online from Andy, and it is just beautifully done, as so many 3Ds are, but this one is great. And he even included, because these cars, I think they all had a vinyl roof. In 68, you didn't buy a car if you didn't have a vinyl roof on it. And I know a lot of restos these days keep the roof off, but you should have on there. And this one does. And you can see how back in 68, they had a little reveal along the back of the rear window where the vinyl top would not quite make it to the rear window. You saw a little bit of the car color in there. So this is going to get a vinyl roof. He even has the seam lines in here already in the 3D print. It's a beautiful piece. It's really complicated. Comes with a lot of suspension parts and all kinds of things. No instructions. I got to figure out how to put this all together, and I will. Now, this B-pillar here is a little thin. I got to be careful with that and not break it. Notice that there is no B-pillar up front here where there would be a vent window, because they did away with those in 68. There would be seat belts inside, and most people didn't use them in 68, but you could. I think this is a beautiful car. I saw one at a car show, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I don't know that I'd ever seen one in person prior to that, but when I saw that this was available online, I decided, yeah, I want to get that, and I want to build it. There is a sort of a light yellow that this car came in. I couldn't find an actual factory color, but butternut yellow I think would go very well, and you can get that from Splash Paint, so I may give that a try. And finally, there is this. This is a diecast from Danbury Mint. You know what it is. It's the Little Deuce Coupe. I want to put a little better light on this if I can. Can I do this? Is that all right? Yeah. This is just a jewel of a die-cast model. It is gorgeous. It is intricately detailed, and everything is just perfect on it. I am not really much of a collector of die-cast, but when I saw this, I knew I had to have it. The trunk here opens up. Look inside is a fuel tank and a battery. And if you can look, I don't know how close I can get now. here, but the engine is detailed. It's got wiring. It's got all the parts on it that should be there, fuel intake and everything. And it's just absolutely wonderful. Here's the front end. Look at this. Here's the rear end, exactly as it was. It has those three aluminum, I don't even know what you call these things, little panels along the rocker panel. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful model. Inside, now, if I can do this, wait a minute. Here we go. I'm only opening, it's hard to open with the gloves, right? So I'm going to use this toothpick. Look at this. Look in here. Can you get in there? It's got seatbelts in here. It's got a tufted interior. It's got a carpeted floor. It's got the proper steering wheel. Everything in here is absolutely gorgeous. It's got chrome reverse wheels, the narrow slicks of the day. Now, here's the interesting thing that back in the day, Chili Cataldo built this car when he was working at his parents' grocery store, and across the street there was a gas station, and he really started getting into hot rods. So he decided to build this thing. It took about 6 years or so, and he built it a little bit at a time, and eventually it became a really cool hot rod. And of course, it became the iconic Little Deuce Coupe when it was on the cover of the Beach Boys album. It's interesting because that cover, that's Chili leaning over the engine, but they cut him out. He is in a picture with the car. But there has not really been a good replica of this car by any manufacturer. Aurora did it back, I guess, in the early to mid 60s. They called it the Ramrod. It was kind of typical for the day, not real detailed, and I never had one. You can still find them around occasionally, but they're a little rare. So Danbury Mint decided to do this back in the, I guess, early 2000s. And at the time, two guys that you would know, Doug White and Rick Hamore, were working there, and they were the ones that were responsible for a lot of the really, really great die-cast cars that came along. Not just the usual, oh, you know, a Mustang or a Corvette, but hot rods like this. They did Norm Grabowski's Kooky hot rod from the 77 Sunset Strip television show. And they did this. And I got to talk to Rick about this. I guess one night we were sitting having a beer at JSL. And I asked him, I said, what was it like to work on this? He said it was great because Chili sold the car, and after about 30 years, he managed, Chili's name was Clarence, that was his nickname. After about 30 years, I think he bought it back, and he had it until he passed away, and then his son got it. So this iconic car is in the ownership of the family, and Rick went out to look at this car, crawl all around it, measure it, and really replicate it, and what a wonderful job they did. So it's terrific, it's iconic, very hard to find nowadays. They did a wonderful job on this. You can see the padding on the top. I don't know what the color on this is. I think they call it Sapphire Ice or Sapphire Blue, something like that. Sapphire Silver, I think that's what they called it. But it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous paint. So altogether, this is one of the die-casts that I keep very carefully put away and free from dust because I absolutely treasure this model. Okay, that's it for What Did You Buy Wednesday, and I hope everyone got a little extra sleep. I'm filming this on Sunday because I'm going to be away for most of the week, and I want to drop this in Wednesday. And today's the day when you turn the clocks back an hour, so I hope everyone got an extra hour of sleep. And speaking of sleep, don't forget the Sleepers group build. It's on until April 1st. If you want to build a car that's really a hot machine underneath but doesn't look like it on the outside, right? Okay, and thank you then for viewing. Thank you to my subscribers. Very much appreciated as that number ticks up. And I'll see you next time.